Getting to remission can feel impossible, but I'm here today to show you how I got to remission and hopefully how you can start your journey to remission with inflammatory bowel disease. And right here I've got my last colonoscopy report, which shows just here that everything was fine. The bowel was normal, and that's the first time I've had a colonoscopy where there was nothing. I've been in this state for probably about 3 years, but it was the first full colonoscopy I had that proved that I was in remission, and the biopsies ended up coming back and it was fine. So that's fantastic. And during the last 11 years of inflammatory bowel disease, coming up to 12 years, I have done powerlifting. I've got the couple of medals just to prove I entered some competitions. I did quite well in powerlifting. I got myself into the best shape I've ever been in. And I've done all this whilst dealing with flares. And over the past 3 years, coming up to 4 years, I've been in a great health state, touch wood. And I put it down to these behaviours that I'm going to share with you today. But first, I want to share the story of how I ended up in a flare state, because I think that we can analyse that and show how some of the behaviours I was doing was not really helping me out. So when I first experienced inflammatory bowel disease, I thought I had bowel cancer because the symptoms are very similar. I was bleeding a lot. I was running to the toilet 20 plus times a day. And because of that, I was feeling quite depressed. Now, this is going back 11 years. And because I had no idea what it was, and I thought it was bowel cancer, you just kind of assume the worst. I decided that I was giving up on life. So I started drinking. I was in my final year of university, kind of gave up on my work. I managed to pass my BA in broadcast media, but I got, I think, a third, whatever the lowest pass is, because I kind of gave up on my work because of the flares, and I thought that that was the end for me. Lo and behold, it's not. I'm still here many years later, but still, I thought that was the end and I gave up on myself. That was not the case. And I was drinking, I was staying up late. My diet was terrible. I was eating lots of takeaway. I was eating lots of Indian takeaway, Chinese takeaway, pizza. And these things would cause me pain, but I would eat them anyway because it was sort of a comfort food for me. I was eating lots of chocolate. And overall, my diet was terrible. I wasn't getting many nutrients from my food. And the advice was to have no fibre. But the advice didn't sink in. I thought, what's the point in trying? And over that time, I was given all sorts of medications. I was given corticosteroids, which are not muscle-building steroids. If any of you have been given steroids, you know what they're like. They're very horrible. And the first time I was given those steroids, they're there to sort of try and immediately reduce inflammation as fast as possible, all across the body. But they have a lot of other side effects. And when I was first given those medications, I thought, I don't want to be on these. And I heard all about weight gain and everything. So I went on a drastic diet, and it kind of sent me a bit insane. I remember I was microwaving sweet potatoes and eating those, not enough calories. Sent me a bit crazy. I got in touch with my specialist and I said, I don't want to be on prednisolone. I want to be on something else. So they tested me out on budesonide, which was a different steroid. Didn't help me. And for the longest time, I was on a medication called mesalazine. Now, many of you may be familiar with this, but if not, it's essentially a form of ibuprofen that releases inside of your gut and hopefully reduces that inflammation. And I was on that medication for 7 years. And over those 7 years, I was in and out of flares. And it was kind of just not really leading me anywhere. So eventually, I had the biggest flare of my life, which I felt like was going to be the end of me. I was fully hospitalised. There was a stool chart, and I had to point out where I was on the stool chart, basically how formed your stools were. It was the worst score every day until I was given infliximab, a biological medication. And I noticed changes within hours of having this. Now, this isn't the case for everyone. Sometimes it can take upwards of 2 weeks. Sometimes infliximab doesn't work, and there's many other biological drugs to try. For me, infliximab worked wonders, and I'm still on that today. And I take azathioprine alongside it. Now, medication alone will help a lot. It sort of kickstarts that healing process. So that was the first thing I learned, was find the right medication. If you're in and out of flares, there may be the medication isn't working, but it might be that there is a missing piece here. And that might be diet, that might be sleep, that might be exercise. And I was not treating myself well. So before I go any further, if you are interested in getting help with helping diagnose what mistakes you might be doing with your health, your diet, your exercise, your sleep, maybe your medications aren't working for you, I can have a chat with you. I'm going to put a link down below. If you are interested, we can have a one-to-one call. Now, I'm not a doctor or anything. I do have a small qualification in nutrition. I've managed to build myself up to be the fittest person I've ever been whilst living with chronic disease. I feel like I'm much more productive than I ever used to be. And if you do want to have that call, that link's down below. Anyway, over the past 3 years, after that hospitalisation, I started taking my health very seriously. And I took some drastic measures. And sometimes, because we're in drastic health states, the best thing you can do is take drastic measures. So what I started to do was I eliminated chocolate from my diet. I decided I'm not going to have any junk food. Cut that out. So any desserts, anything like that, gone. And while I was in a good health state, I actually dramatically increased my fibre intake. I decided I was going to eat all sorts of fruits, vegetables, lean meats, whatever I could take. Almost like a bodybuilder diet. You know, if you've heard of the chicken, rice, broccoli meal, kind of like that, but with more vegetables. I wanted to get as much nutrients into me as possible. I started taking my sleep like it was my religion. I treated it like it was God. I had to go to bed at the same time every day. And that meant I woke up roughly at the same time every day. And I became a morning person. Before this, I was a night owl, a self-proclaimed night owl. I thought that I couldn't go to sleep early. I had to stay up until I passed out. But no, I'm a morning person now. And that comes down to just doing it day in, day out. Now, there are measures I've taken to help me feel more relaxed at night time, help me chill out a bit more, because there's all sorts of things that come alongside inflammatory bowel disease that you only really learn from doing it, from experiencing it. And that could be anxiety, worries, rumination, all that sort of thing. They come alongside of it. And there are methods to help with that. But one of the main things is having that wind down time for bed. This could benefit anybody. For instance, as it approaches the last few hours before bed, I put these on. This is just one of my methods. My eyes already feel more relaxed just wearing them. These are the blue light blockers. These cost me about a tenner on Amazon. They're very cheap. You don't have to get expensive ones. There are brands that want to charge you a lot for that sort of thing. You can get cheap ones. Then there's sort of levels to this. You can go really strict. You can cut out all this sort of stuff. Like I said, chocolate, junk food. You can cut it all out. Or you can do a graded exposure to it where you slowly taper off of it. Oh, I'm going to just cut out chocolate bars. I'm going to slowly cut out this and replace the other. Started eating more fermented foods. I have kefir every day for breakfast. Every day. And I've had kefir for years now. And the more it's not from your country, get it imported. In the UK, there's a main company called Beautiful. I drink the Polish stuff. If you can get it imported, I think it's better. I eat loads of blueberries, tons of blueberries. The thing is, they tell you not to eat fibre, but I think once you're in a good health state, fibre is probably... You'll have to test it out for yourself. Have a little bit of fibre first, see how you feel. But I've felt a lot better from eating a wide, varied diet. And fibre is a huge part of that. I drink lots of water, make sure I get electrolytes. They're all very simple things, but can be easily forgotten about when you're so focused on other things. There's so many other things in life to think about on top of inflammation and being tired and all that sort of thing. Exercise is a huge part of it too. One of the best things that you can do to improve your health, pardon me, is to do cardio and build up your muscle. But cardio helps immensely as well. There's something called your VO2 max, which is how your body utilizes the oxygen. How much does your heart have to work to get oxygen around you? If you can improve that, that's one of the best health markers you can improve and one of the biggest benefits you can have. And that could be simply just by running, if not walking vigorously. Do it for like half an hour and do it once or twice a week. And then over time, your heart's going to get stronger. That's going to be easier, which means your body's not working so hard at rest to pump that blood around. And that's why your resting heart rate is a number that will drop if you work on your cardiovascular fitness. Muscle-wise, that's just very helpful. The strength of your muscles is a good indicator of longevity. And when I was in hospital, I was in a health state where I felt bound to the bed, but at some point I did find myself feeling like I needed to walk around the hospital. I was trying to do squats next to the bed. I think I ended up doing some push-ups there's an outside area with some grass. I went out there, did some push-ups and that. I tried to keep active, even though I was walking around like an old man because I was so inflamed inside. It was hard to walk. I was walking around like an old man and I needed a Zimmer frame, but I could still do push-ups and all that. I made sure to do them, even if it's just a little bit. You want to get the blood moving around you just a little bit. And just while we're talking about being in a flare, the thing that always used to terrify me is, will I have a perforation? Am I losing too much blood? And the thing is, the amount of blood that you see in the toilet, it's not as much as it seems. I do have a video on this channel where I simulate that with some red food colouring, and it takes just the smallest amount to turn the bowl red. So it looks very dramatic, but sometimes the bowl does look like you've been in a gruesome battle scene. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's not as bad as it seems, trust me. And one of the best things that got me through those hard times for me was actually being in contact with my specialist, ringing them up, leaving them emails. They had it at the time, they don't do it now, but at the time I could drop an email. And if I was panicking at 2 a.m. because I thought my gut hurts, I think it's going to perforate, I'd just leave an email in the inbox. And just knowing that email was sat there made me feel a bit calmer. Now they operate in a different way. You can only phone between, I think, 9 and 11 a.m. And then after that, they don't answer the phone. You can't leave a message. Not the greatest thing in the world, but, during hard times, I have phoned them. And if you are in the UK and you are panicked, what I've done in the past is call 111. I don't call 999 because I don't feel like it's a true emergency. It's a mental emergency. I'm panicking. So I phone 111. I tell them the situation, and then they will book you an appointment at the A&E, so you don't have to go and wait in the A&E. You still have to wait a long time, but you go and see someone at the A&E. A doctor will check you out. Oftentimes, though, with IBD, they don't really have much to help you with. The last time I used that, they offered me prednisolone, which I ended up getting prescribed anyway, so I might as well have taken it from them. But they can't really help you too much, but it's more of a, will they help calm you down? Another thing is community. Joining an IBD Discord. That helped me greatly. I do have one down below. If you do want to go on there, you can send me a question or just leave a comment on this video. I'll try and get back to you. But talking to people is one of the best ways to calm yourself. People who've been there and done that. And they can say, it's not as bad as it feels. You're not going to die right now. Because when you are in that flare, I remember people saying to me, it helped quite a lot thinking of it this way. Your bowel can be so inflamed that it doesn't really matter what you eat. It's going to feel awful on the way through. And I know it's basically learning to live with suffering when you're in that flare. But if you can just accept it and know it's probably going to feel terrible when I go to the bathroom, then it's going to just make it that little bit easier. What I used to do, I was up and down, run into the bathroom throughout the night. I used to sit there, get my phone. Let's just say this is my phone. I hold it up to my ear, and I've put on a video about a guy talking about Star Wars. And I just listen to it very quietly in the dark. I like to sit in the dark and I just go through my suffering and I just listen to it. And my leg would be jolting up and down. I'd go through it, you'd have that gut-wrenching feeling, and then it would be done. And then I'd go back to bed. And that helped me get through it. It didn't stop me feeling it, obviously, but it helped me get through it. But anyway, community, physical activity, sleep, all pillars of dealing with inflammatory bowel disease. And that medication, you do need to find a medication. But the thing is, why I think that pentasa/mesalazine wasn't working for me for so many years, maybe it was partly due to the medication not being the most effective thing for me. But I also think it's because I wasn't taking my health seriously. So while I think the medication is kind of a base, it can help you heal, so far. You've got to help yourself heal too. You've got to provide almost like the Lego bricks to keep building that base. The sleep, the diet, the exercise, the community, to help your mental health. They all help build that. And if you don't believe in those medications, they're not going to be as effective. So that is how I got to where I am today. So if you do want to talk to me, I'll leave that link down below. I'd love to help you out. If you do want to just join the Discord, that's there. And the calls, the one-to-one calls, they are a paid-for thing. You will be paying for the time, the 1 hour session or half an hour session, whatever it is. But that's there if you do want to do that. If not, come and join the Discord, leave a message, and I will try and get back to you when I can. But in those one-to-one calls, we can go into detail. I can ask you questions about your life, see what things are you doing to help yourself. We can assess, make a plan. That's the main thing. And having those plans to work to does make it a lot easier. And it's what I wish I had when I was going through my flare. So anyway, thank you for listening to me today, and I'll see you in the next video.